Welcome to 60 Second Civics, the daily podcast of the Center for Civic Education. I'm Mark Gage. We are joined again today by special guest Holly White, associate producer of Colonial Williamsburg Innovation Studios and a producer of the Ben Franklin's World podcast. Dr. White, after European arrival, what was life like for Indigenous women living in colonial North America?
Both before and after European colonization, the lives of North American Indigenous women would have varied depending on what tribe they belonged to, where they lived, and their proximity to and interactions with European settlements. Many Indigenous tribes were matrilineal, which meant that authority and kin networks flowed through the female line. Indigenous women were often heavily involved in food production, which is obviously a critical role in any society. Those who lived in communities that practiced agriculture would have tended the crops, fished, ground corn, and other grain. Women who lived in Indigenous tribes which practiced hunting would have cured meat. Indigenous women were also instrumental in preparing goods for trade, which became even more important as Europeans began to arrive on the continent. Women made baskets, mats, pottery, as well as prepared hides, and fashioned other goods that were considered desirable or just needed. Some Indigenous women found that their roles changed as a result of European arrival. In some areas, women might have acted as interpreters or intermediaries between settlers and tribes, which might have increased their status within their communities, while in other groups, an Indigenous woman's status may have diminished because although traditionally her tribe may have had women as political leaders and diplomats, European delegations might have refused to negotiate with or take female leaders seriously.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. White. That's all for today's podcast, 60 Second Civics, where civic education only takes a minute.